As usual, I dedicate my work to the unknown artists and sculptors who created these divine works, to the kings and chieftains who supported them, and to commoners like you and me who continue to appreciate them. I salute to them. The reason why we called our project the India Pride Project was to restore India's pride, one artifact at a time. And why is it meant to be restoring pride? I'll show you how our gods are treated as showpiece curios, how they are cut and bundled and rubbed. So it's going to be a disturbing 45 minutes. We go to the next one. The first thing that we need to acknowledge is the elephant in the room. We have a problem. We are losing our murtis. The headline that you see here is not a recent one. It was published on April 4th, 1986. We've been having this problem right from the 1920s. But now, with the advent of technology, the best of Indian art is being picked. Auction houses used to send their representatives to India. They used to go on recce trips with soul scholars, pick and choose the best of Indian art that would sell, and then they were robbed. This was not some random robber looting. And we're not talking by the ones and twos. We're talking by the thousands. Go to the next slide. So, this is a report card, and it's not updated. It'll be updated in the last slide. From 1972 to 2000, India brought back 19 artifacts, 19. 2000 to 2012, 0. And this is not my number. This is the CAG report of 2013's number. What's it now? Any guesses? Okay. You're closer to that, but we'll see that at the end. Go to the next slide. So what's changed? The laws have remained the same. The prosecution is pathetic. Our enforcement is equally ignorant. Our borders are porous. What caused this change? And have we played a small part? This is what we do. We work on restitution, building awareness, being a deterrent, influence policy, and we work in capacity building. And we've been doing this for the last 17 years. I go a bit in to show you what you're up against. The global art market, an unpoliced, undocumented, no surveys are done, no data is available globally. And the data that you're going to see are from numbers from their own studies. These are the kind of numbers that you're talking about, where our murtis are being openly sold and auctioned. And yeah, you're right, that's the number of zeros and commas you're seeing. So this is the size of the global art market. And the last published data was 2015. And you can actually see it's doubled in the decade that it's been documented. Who are the culprits? The erstwhile colonial powers, EU, UK, and the new power, America. About 80% lands up there, rest in China, because China are very specific, they look for only Chinese artifacts. And globally, there is a drop in the open sale of antiquities. The green worm, thanks for the IPL effect, the green worm is the Indian antiquities. And you can see that globally, almost all antiquities took a sharp fall in 2007. Again, this doesn't mean the total sale dropped. This is a drop in open auctions. What caused this? Was some aggressive action in America. And why did they do that? Not with an intent. They look at us as source nations. We are like some mine where they can continuously mine us for antiquities, even though officially, as per the UN 1970 statute, the tap has been closed, the pipeline has been blocked, but still antiquities pour out the other line. They did it because they realized that the guys who were benefiting from this collecting lobby cabal were not, they were including ICs. The third item on IC's income list was connected to antiquities licenses. And a judge was actually shown this graphic. Average cost of antiquity being sold, how much money it makes, And how much of that is translated into arms, ammunition, bombs that are used to kill your own soldiers. And this is what caused America to take a more stringent action, and they're continuing to do it. They brought antiquities trafficking, antique dealership under Banking Secrecy Act. The EU is looking at stronger declarations, whereas India, I'll come to that. What is our plan? Now, one other thing that you need to know is that I'm not shooting ISIS name to grab your eyeballs. This is actually a satellite image of Daesh-controlled territory before and after. And all those small holes you're seeing is actually illicit digs for which ISIS let out digging licenses. So each of these holes must have had an antiquity. This is in Syria, of course. I'm not saying that India is that bad like this, but we have traced Indian antiquity smuggling to the Hawala markets. A lot of Kashmiri artifacts have been, just one museum in New York, Metropolitan Museum, has about 680 Kashmiri artifacts, all of them acquired after 1985. Where the money went, you be the good guess. So yeah, not all our antiquities go into museums. Not all our antiquities go into temperature control, quality control, where they are better kept. The usual argument, India temples are ruined, our murtis can be better kept. But this is how our murtis are, lining the swimming pools. This is an actual shot of an auction that is happening, where I'm from Tamil Nadu. These bronzes are called Thirumenis. Tirumeni literally translates to body of God, where they would be woken up in the morning by singing songs, bathed, clothed, fed, worship. Weddings would happen to them, marriages would happen to them, and they'd go to sleep. They'll be sung to, they'll go to the bedrooms and sleep, and they would be treated as loving gods. And here you see them being converted to being showpiece curios. So, it's bad. Go on. Keep going. So, this is in Bangkok. This is the British Thai smuggler, Douglas Latchford, his house. And you can actually see every nook and corner has our murtis there. And this, we're just talking one or two dealers here. Now, we walk into museums, we see an exhibit like this. Nobody asks the question as to why the legs are chopped. And I mean, nobody meaning, including us, Indians. Any guesses why the legs have been chopped? So this happened in Devgarh. People who have been to Devgarh, it's one of the most amazing works of Gupta era. Up the hill was this huge Varaha, 11 feet in high. 2008, this happened. You can actually see why the legs have been chopped. The legs are anchored to the pedestal. The pedestal weighs 4 tons. So just to ease smuggling. So every antiquity that you see in museums, like this, they're also cut deliberately for export. Just keep going. 5 clicks. Any guesses who this is? This is a Varaha that was reassembled in America. And this is a trade that specializes in it, where there are expert restorers who do this for a price, going against every ethics of conservation. People are literally becoming headhunters. This is one of the few sun temples dedicated to the sun in Umri. And 14 years ago, this happened. So, and what happens to the head? It's sold in antique stores in Europe, mounted on a stake, literally. And this is what our ancestors went through to protect our gods. And you saw that brilliant video. This image was exactly a minute after that. He was buried for 600 years, he comes out, and all the screams you heard was not remixing. It was religious fervor. And he's become a god, he's become back a god. And this is what we want to do. So, we talked about the villain of my book. That's Subhash Kapoor. The 2 bronzes that you see behind him have been hidden in New York by his sister for the last 14 years, along with another Nataraja and Uma, total valued at $13.5 million. She's out on a $10,000 bail, and India has not even filed a case on the sister. Whereas the brother has been extradited. He was arrested in 2011 in Germany, extradited to India in 2012. He's currently under trial in Chennai. One of his crimes, in 2005, this brilliant Nataraja was stolen from a temple. The robbers thought he was made of gold. So they cut his hand via an axa blade, gave it to a jeweler to melt the hand. The jeweler melted it and said there's no gold. Had an argument, they hit the jeweler died. There was a murder case. The proponents of the crime perpetrators escaped to Thailand. In the hand-cut state, the Nataraja made its appearance in London, where a restorer gave it a new hand. 2 years later, he is in New York with a new hand. A month before he is arrested, Kapoor is arrested, this Nataraja makes a miraculous recovery back in Chennai. So without a passport or visa, in a hand-cut condition, he goes to London, grows a hand, goes to New York, comes back to Chennai, nothing, no records at all. And he's back home. This is how porous our borders are. And the police officer, he was the number 2 in the specialized idle wing of the CID, was complicit in the crime. He's been charged. Exposed in the book. The restorer who did this job was investigated by Homeland Security. This bronze, again a buried bronze, in this condition, with encrustations, mud, in this condition was allowed to export out of India. Cleaned, regrown hands, and for this particular crime, Neil Perry Smith was extradited from London last February to America, is currently charged, part of the Kapoor gang. So, there is an international cabal that's working to cloud, camouflage, and actively prize our gods. Supported by an ecosystem in India. There are dealers, academics, scholars, sold Lotus awardees, police, who are all involved because of the price. And I just give you a few examples of technology. So these are like Naveen Swayamvar. People are WhatsApping images and people are bidding on it. So these are images. These 2 Doe Guardians have come back from Australia. You can actually see a dhoti behind it. The next one also back from Australia with a lungi behind it. These are all robber offering photos. So these offering photos are being sent via electronic media to prospective buyers where the bidding happens. And then our gods are smuggled out. So our success story, one of our first success stories was this Ardhanarishwara, beautiful Chola sculpture, stolen in 2004. Replaced with a fake. When we pointed out as a documented antiquity, the Australian Premier brought it and gave it back to our Prime Minister in 2014, and that was the proverbial tip of the iceberg. The Shri Nataraja next to it also came back. Together, Shri was bought by the Australian National Gallery for $5.1 million. The Ardhanarishwara was sold for $738,000. They both came back to India, restituted, free of charge, including transport, brought not in the Australian Prime Minister's plane because they were too heavy, in another plane. But what happened after that was that there was a treasure trove of information from out of this, which was still then stonewalled. And what you're seeing is the main problem that we have. We have not documented our sites. We have not created an archive. And the reason why I'm talking to you here is if there are entrepreneurs here, tech experts here, we can only get back our murtis if they are properly archived. So there is a call for a citizen archive. Right here is a clue that got back an idol. Can you guess? We'll come to that. So this is from Chandavaram. Anybody from Andhra, Telangana? This is a Buddhist site. Nobody goes there. And down there is excavation photograph where you can actually see 5. So this is what happened. The thieves cut it into 2. The Buddha frieze, stitched it back and sold it to Australia. It's come back currently in the Delhi National Museum. But that was the clue, and we were helped by a German research, fortunately not a sole scholar, Robert Alt, who helped us get this Murti back. But our documentation, we are forever indebted to the French Institute in Pondicherry. They have an archive where they documented Tamil Nadu sculptures, about 10% of Tamil Nadu's temples. Till 2014, it was like this bin cards, where you have to go spend about a couple of days going through, have a possible match, then they blow it up. But with this small effort in 1950, 1960, we have so far recovered 68 murtis just out of this archive. Imagine if every state had this archive, what we could have done. How simple this work would have been. So this Nataraja is the Shri Purandan 5.1 million Nataraja. The temple from where he was stolen. You can see the robber photo, the catalog sold in the National Gallery. We gave the proof. The curator said all the Natarajas look the same, so we didn't give him the proof. We put it on YouTube. He was so embarrassed that it came back. Go on, 5. Not the same photo again, not the same. Hang on for the applause. What happened was the Murti went back to the village, placed in the same place from where he was stolen, and this was how the villagers rebuilt the temple that was ruined to receive the abode back. And this is what we want. That's what our hashtag is, bring our gods home. When the God comes home, there is rejuvenation everywhere. We have many such cases. I'll just keep going fast because I'm positive of time. We had some creative media help. Nataraja back from Australia, wife stuck in Singapore. So the Singapore Murti also came back, the Uma came back. Yeah, thanks. And the importance of proper documentation was in this. The Toledo Ganesha had a casting defect. Imagine 1967 when this, just two more. So there was this small blemish in the trunk, and that was captured in the original photograph. With that, we were able to prove, and this Ganesha is also back home. How big was the loot? Go fast. In 2012, Operation Hidden Idol was launched by Homeland Security. These are all seizures from that one operation from 14 storage locations, just in New York. Majority Indian, but they also had Cambodia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, and Nepal artifacts. A total. So what you're seeing here is actually an Indo-Gangetic form and the intact seal. And we didn't see one. We had almost, and that's an Indus seal as well, and we had almost 8 of them. The total amount of seizure was 2,622 objects, valued at 850 crores or $108 million. One dealer, medium-sized, his holding stock, he was in business for 35 years. Imagine what we have lost. Imagine amount of plunder that's happened. Let's just keep going. So not only that, after this raid, we kept the pressure on. We worked with Homeland Security. Asia Week, that is like a get-together of global antique dealers happened. We went and raided those as well. Just go on. $20 million were seized because of our work. Asia Week, New York in 2016. Those murtis, those who followed the Prime Minister bringing back early part of this year, murtis, all these were that. This particular one is a very interesting because this again from a robber photo we were able to track. This murti came back along with the Prime Minister. Just keep going. Now, just hold there. Just go back one step. Just go back. So, these are terracotta and stoneware from Chandraketuga. And this is how they were flat packed and couriered to Subhash Kapoor. So these are evidence photographs. About 98% of them arrived damaged, broken. The site was only excavated in 1968. Every major museum in the world, every major collector in the world has Chandraketuga artifacts. In fact, Kapoor donated $500,000 worth of artifacts to the Toledo Museum from this. All of that, along with the Toledo Museum, is coming back. Who is digging? How are these getting out in these kind of numbers? Next is probably the most expensive restituted object that's going to come back. She was a registered antiquity, a Bharutyakshi, 2nd century BC. The robbers actually cut her into two. She was a Kula Devata. This farmers worshipping her as a Kula Devata. Robbers stuck in 2004. They cut it into 3 pieces. Got a restorer, this time in America, to stitch it back. She was in the market for $15 million. Sees now, she's going to come back. I'll take another 5 minutes. Thank you. Well, how do we solve theft? We are in the metaverse. Yeah, we solve it via WhatsApp. So this was something that Sanjeev Sanyal put me up to. He was talking to a retired ASI director about my work. And Sanjeev, being who is, said, Vijay is doing good work. So a challenge was thrown at me, saying it's a 1961 theft, can you solve it? It was 14 bronzes that were stolen from the Nalanda Site Museum. And we had some of our operatives on the field in theft masterage. In 2018, this bronze, after being stolen in 1961, made an appearance. Just go up, go up. So, on August 15th of 2018, we finally got the Murti back. And last week, the LACMA announced the return of the Sister Buddha based on evidence as well. So we just go on. So this was another Nataraja that we got from Pune Nallur. Again, a lead from a confidential informant, have a match, he got it, got the proof, photographic proof available from a Photoshop. Yeah. This is the kind of matching work we do. Again, all of it manual. There are image recognition software, facial recognition software, internet crawlers we could do with some help. Right now, we are doing it on a spare time, but still getting reasonable success. So that's the Nataraja with the Prime Minister and the story of how he came back. Many more along with that. So we're not dealing with Tamil Nadu or Hindu icons only. It's a varies section. Just keep going, please. Just keep going. So this is just a slide of what we've done this year in the last 4 months. This was a yogini that we got back from London, abandoned in a field. She came back after being stolen in 1980. Come back. These 3 were seized from a tech entrepreneur in America in Feb. This is the proof that we could manage. Go on. Keep going. Keep going. Go on. So the ceremony for the yogini's return. Just keep going, please. The Buddha in Milan, Italy, again from Bihar. We got back in March. Go back. And the Hanuman that we got in Australia but was sold, auctioned by Christie's in New York. Again, a very small, grainy picture, gut feel, it could be it. Turned out well, the Hanuman was back. Yeah. So these are our work. Go on. Recently, the Yale Museum, after we exposed them in 2016, after a long road, started returning 13 and many more to come. So what we're doing is inspiring neighboring countries. So there's a Nepal Pride project, and I sit on the board of the Nepal Heritage Recovery Committee, and I wanted to end this talk on a good note. So before I play that video, I just want to put a request to the organizers here. Just go one slide. Yeah. This is my wish list. If any one of these see light, I would consider your time and my time well spent. Please amplify, tweet. It's simple. I don't want to get into this, but I'll be happy to engage with any of you on any of these. We want a central art crime squad. Many countries have done that. Italy has done that. We need tougher national laws. Do you know there is no law for heritage crimes in India? The only law for idol theft, temple theft is housebreaking theft. Carries a maximum sentence of 7 years. And in my home state of Tamil Nadu, in 1993, they made an amendment. So in Tamil Nadu, you rob a house, you get 7 years. You rob a temple, it's 3 years. And the amendment still continues. We want to do a citizen-led archive, tech collaboration. We don't have an institution that can date antiquities. We have to send it to America. So any academics, please help. We need a national loss registry. Anyone in law enforcement Today, police stations are gauged by the open FIRs. So what they do, they get a petty criminal, say he only robbed it, idol not found, case closed. Hundreds of cases, including the Hanuman that you saw recently, the case was closed as untraceable within 8 months of the theft. But we still solved it. We need to open that. We have to build capacity, and those people who are bringing out the murtis, they have to be rewarded. Otherwise, they are sold as scrap to scrap dealers, to the collecting lobby. If there is some way they can be incentivized, they're getting only weight. They don't get these $1 million numbers. So if we can find a way to reward people, finders, it would be of help. Just go. I want to end with a number. 306 is the report card. It's another 1,000 is listed to come back from America alone. I was hoping to bring you some breaking news from Paris, but you have to wait for the papers. So thank you.